Welcome back. Well, with Kosovo's declaring independence on Sunday, the EU has been preparing plans to help the new state to its feet. In Brussels on Monday, as Albanians paraded outside the EU buildings, EU foreign ministers pored over contingency plans. They are preparing to send a 2,000-strong police and justice mission to take over supervision of the new Kosovan state. Sweden's foreign minister expressed confidence in Brussels that the EU members will reach a common ground over Kosovo.
I hope that we can get a platform that is united with virtually everyone. I've said before that my aim is to have 26, and I think that is achievable, although there might be some difficulties along the road. And then to try to look ahead. I mean, we need to assist Kosovo with state building, getting a viable economy, minority rights for years to come.
At the UN, there's stalemate. The US failed Sunday to gather the support necessary to have Kosovo's independence upheld. On the other side, Russia has failed to have the Serbian province's independence declared null and void. Russia's ambassador to the UN warned that Russia would not stand by if the rights of the Serb minority in Kosovo were not respected.
And in accordance with those documents, they are supposed to declare unilateral proclamation of independence null and void. And secondly, we'll be highly concerned and we will be inquiring about the situation on the ground. Our concern is for the safety of the Serb and other ethnic minorities in Kosovo, and we'll be inquiring in that context about the activities and the line of action of international presences there. And certainly, again, we'll strongly warn against any attempts at repressive measures should Serbs in Kosovo decide not to comply with this unilateral proclamation of independence. Thank you.
We're still joined by our guests in London, Asa Zimberi, former director of the London-based Kosovo Information Centre. In Belgrade, Slobodan Samardžija, deputy editor of foreign affairs at the Serbian daily Politika. And in Brussels, Michael Emerson, associate senior research fellow at the Centre for European Policy Studies. Welcome back. Let me ask Mr. Asa Zimberi in London. Serbia has decided not to recognize this new state. Isn't this a recipe for more uncertainty and instability in the region?
Well, that depends on Serbia. But regarding what the previous speakers said, I would like to point out that Serbia has caused much more damage to Kosovo than it has ever invested in it. We would like Serbia to accept the reality and recognize the state of Kosovo and work for future good neighborly relations. That is the only way, and we would also like to see Serbia look towards the democratic West rather than Russia, because Russia is simply using Kosovo just in order to try and reassert its place in the international affairs. In a way, it's going back to Cold War. However, I'm not convinced that Russia is that sort of cares that much about Serbia.
Mr. Emerson, do you agree with what Mr. Zimberi has been saying, that basically Russia is not genuine in its attempt to say no, but it's just trying to assert its position in Europe?
Yes, basically Russia is playing an opportunistic game here, referring to what Ambassador Churkin was saying. I mean, his first point was Russia will attempt to get this Declaration of Independence declared null and void in the UN Security Council. That is a no-hoper, a no-brainer. Obviously that won't pass, it's just posturing. As regards his second point, namely the concern for the treatment of, or the place of the Serb minorities in Kosovo, there's in a sense no problem. Everybody agrees that the Serbs in Kosovo have got to have a decent and normal place in the life of Kosovo. And the European Union and NATO will have the police and the military on the ground to attend to that, whereas Russia is completely absent.
Mr. Samardžija, what can make the Serbs and the Russians change their mind? The respect of the Serb minority, for example, or the implementation of a genuinely democratic nation in Kosovo?
Well, the problem is, I don't think that Serbia and Russia will change their minds. As you know, in Ahtisaari's plan, one of the main things is that Kosovars must keep safe Serbians. So if the situation was not so tense, the Ahtisaari plan wouldn't be needed, because in Serbia also live Albanians. I don't know how much, but I know many of my neighbors are Albanians. So they don't need Ahtisaari's plan. It means that they are safe. If in Kosovo it is needed, it means that Serbs are in danger anyway.
Mr. Isa Zimbari, how do you respond to those who say that the declaration of independence was a very bad idea for the moment, because it would bolster independentists in the region, mainly in the Caucasus area?
Well, first of all, Ahtisaari's plan was needed in order to determine the status of Kosovo. The Kosovars have cooperated fully with the international community even regarding this plan. The best way would have been for this to go through the United Nations, but as we all know, Russia blocked it, and unfortunately they had to take this unilateral move. And even this was done in full cooperation with the EU and the United States. We hope that, again, reason will prevail, and we hope that the Serbs will soon realize that Albanians have not proclaimed independence in order to suppress the Serbs. That would be the biggest mistake that Albanians would make, and that would be something that would threaten the stability of their own state.
Mr. Michael Emerson, while Britain, Germany, France and Italy decided to recognize the new state, Spain, Romania and Cyprus said, we won't do that. Isn't this something that could further create more split among European countries?
Well, as I mentioned before, I think this is not really fundamental, in the sense that each of these three countries have minority problems at home, and so they're making domestic political statements, basically, so as to avoid that the Basques and the Northern Cypriots, etc., would see this as a precedent that they should follow. At the same time, these countries are fully supporting the action, the executive action of the European Union, and they are supporting the EU's political decisions to go in and help Kosovo develop in a normal way under the authority of UN Security Council 1244, whose language is sufficiently open to permit this.
Mr. Samardzija, we've heard the Prime Minister of Serbia saying that bluntly, we will never accept the independence declaration, but doesn't he compromise the bid to join the EU by this statement?
Well, you know, the situation is that we are forced to do something that we would never do in some other situation. But the problem is that if you accept the partition of Kosovo, it will mean that you started something very, very bad, because it is not just Kosovo in Europe, you know, and it is not just Albanians in Serbia. It is, I said, Albanians in Macedonia and Montenegro and even Greece, of course. And the problem is this: if these things happen this way, then the Serbs from Bosnia would also ask for independence. But it's not problem the Serbs. The Croats from Bosnia will also ask for their independence. So that is a very, very bad thing for all the Balkans.
So let me ask Mr. Zimbari, in London, a predominantly Muslim news station in the very heart of Europe, isn't this going to be a real test for the new leadership in Kosovo?
Well, the question of religion amongst the Albanians in general is rather specific. Albanians belong to 3 different confessions. Most of them, around 60%, are Muslim, but there are about 20% or so who are Orthodox, and about 15% or so Catholic. So that doesn't become an issue. Albanians have lived and tolerated religion among themselves as well as the religions of other peoples. So I don't think that should play a role at all. I mean, there have been attempts to make it sound as something really bad, as something that will damage the region, but that will not be the case.
Mr. Emerson, do you think that the divide will grow deeper between the EU and Russia over the issue of Kosovo? Please, in less than 1 minute.
Yes, this is a very serious situation because the European Union, while it expresses itself rather cautiously, diplomatically, unlike President Putin, is deeply offended by this opportunistic Russian policy. They're not doing anything to help the Balkans. The European Union is trying finally to pacify, civilize, Europeanize the whole of the region, and Russia is just creating problems. So this is a major point of tension as of now.
Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for your insights. Mr. Zimbari in London, Mr. Samardzija in Belgrade, and Mr. Michael Emerson in Brussels. Thank you so much for joining us here on this edition of Inside Story. We welcome your comments and suggestions. Please email them to us at insidestory@aljazeera.net. Goodbye for now.